Hi, my name's Leonard Andy and I'm a Djiru traditional owner of the Mission Beach area. And this morning I'm going to talk about a few of the artefacts that the Aboriginals in this area used. Here we're coastal saltwater rainforest people. We have mountains behind us, but we lived on the dunes. And a lot of our food and that a lot of the meat came from the ocean, and we also ate a lot of fruit in the forest. As you can see, this here, around Australia they're called boomerangs, but this is what they call a cross boomerang. Every language group has its own name. Here normal boomerangs are called wannal in language. This one is called biribu biribu. It's a cross boomerang. They were made as toys, also for hunting and fighting. The fighting and hunting ones are larger than this and heavier, but the ones used for toys are also returning ones. And they were made for children. And this piece of material I have here comes from a wait-a-while plant in the rainforests. It's cane that has been split. It's an eel trap, but in our language it's called unga, for catching eels. And this one is a bit small. It can be also longer. And how it's used is you put bait inside, but it's not like meat or fish. Here, when certain fruit come on in the rainforest, you put fruit inside here because the eels in the streams eat fruit as well as other dead animals. They're a lot like scavengers and clean up the beds of the creek. And it's staked in the creek where the current's running, so it comes down. And once an eel goes inside, and the further he goes in, the narrower it gets. If he can't bend his body in an S shape, he can't go backwards. So he gets trapped in there by the current and the narrowness of the actual trap. Around here people have been eating smoked eel for thousands of years, and it was a delicacy. People still eat it today. And these objects here are called gadgeon in our language, but around Australia they've been called things like Nullonullas. These are small ones. Some of the larger ones are double this size. Normally women use them, but men do too. They can be thrown at animals, and also the points on the ends are used for digging, when digging for yams, also for other animals living underground. And the larger ones, traditionally they were used by women when they fight. And in the past a woman would always be found with one of these and a basket, a dilly bag basket. And she'd have it it's like when women go out today. They'll have a handbag, but they'll have their own handbag, but they'll have one or two of these with them. That's why in the past our people didn't have metal objects, they had stones. And a lot of the stones took so long to shape that they were passed down like an inheritance in the family, usually from one man to another man, but also grinding stones were given to women from like their aunties, grandmothers, and they were passed in the family. A stone like this is not used for an axe, it's handheld like that, and it's all to chip away at the wood. Traditionally they were used like in shields and to chip away to get a flat surface. And if you have a look at the back of the shield, you'll see the hand grip here. Traditionally you either light a little fire with coals there, put hardwood coals in, and you burn it down a bit, and then you could use one of these, but maybe the point to put it in there and grind, and you use damp sand with the stone, like as a ancient angle grinder, to grind away. And some of the stones are like cylinders, so they can get them underneath. And this stone here, it's really old because you can see the shape in here. There's a line that goes around. That's where the handle would fit on top, and it's a split cane. It wraps over the top and then it's bound up and it's stuck with resin. Oh, the resin tree is called nubi. And even the charcoal that you mix with the resin, it has to be a hardwood charcoal because it's more denser and holds together. And that's like a bush cement. And it seals it all. With the stone axe now, our winter time now, is when you go and collect things like resin from the trees, because it's not, in summer you have more rain and the resin in the tree will be runny. Now it's more solid. That's why winter time you collect resin, you collect bark from fig trees to make bark material. And it all depended on the seasons when you gather certain materials. And this here, you'll see the holes on the side here, and there's another one there. That's usually for your first finger and thumb, or you can even use your second finger, and it goes onto another stone, and it's a grinding stone. Something like this would have been highly valued in the past. They're never really carried around. They're usually hidden around the trees where the nuts come from. So the people go there and grind them, but they don't carry the stones with them. And this I have here is a small shield. It usually goes with a sword. This shield here is made out of bubadilla, but that's a milky pine. And this sword here, traditionally it'd be used by a messenger carrying a message stick in a basket around his neck. And it's only a short sword, because most of the times the messenger doesn't get hurt. Also the messenger has to travel across sometimes creeks and rivers. That's why he won't have what he's carrying won't be too big. And this sword is used mainly for fighting. And it can be used on the outside the curve as well as the inside, so it can reach around a shield. And the drawings I have put on this shield here, they're called jumbun, and that's the witchetty grub. But it's a Pacific witchetty grub that comes from gabara, the candlenut tree. In the forest there's about 5 different ones that you eat. Most of the people today know the big fat one. And he's flavoured by the tree that he's in, whether they're acacia trees or candle nuts. In the past people would ring bark certain candle nut trees just so the beetle can come and lay his larvae inside. Traditionally the fighting style is based on the jiggery jiggery. That's the willy wagtail. We have a story of him being a warrior that was never defeated. So when he died, he turned into that bird. And if you've seen that bird, how he moves, he twists, he turns, he's never still. And that's the style they use with the sword. And the sword, this is only a small one. It can be maybe another 40 centimeters longer. And it's used off the shoulder in close, like that, with a shield, like that. And the shield's held out the front, and it's with your footwork, and the sword is launched from here. That's why it springs out from up in the shoulder here. A lot of posers, you see them, they're standing still. In real life they wouldn't be, because they're twisting, turning, sometimes standing on one leg, sometimes half crouched, and it sprung out from the shoulder like that and downwards strike. Some guys would turn the sword around and use the curve to try and reach over the shield when they strike. It can also be used on angles, or to stand like that and to drop. It's all in close because they turn. You're standing upright sometimes you're down here, and sometimes they'll jump up and stand on one leg and they'll leap towards you and strike. Or you'd want to have your shield up high as you're coming in. So people did strike at the legs. Normally the fights would only have maybe 1 or 2 hits, because certain special places to aim weren't just the head, you'd aim for the collarbones. Because if your collarbone's broken, you can't hold a sword or a shield. And the fights weren't to the death. Usually when one person can't continue, it's over.